They say a mental hospital is a place where they heal the soul. But what if the soul is already dead? And what if it wants to take you with it? My name is Katia. 2 years ago, I was an intern at the regional psychiatric hospital. No, I'm not a doctor or a nurse. I'm a future archivist, and my job was to sort through old documents in the basement. Papers, medical histories, dusty files. What could be scary about papers? I was so wrong back then. The hospital stood on the outskirts of the city. Stalin-era architecture, yellow peeling plaster, tall narrow windows with bars. The grounds were surrounded by a fence with barbed wire. When I first saw that place, something inside me went cold. You know that feeling when you think someone's watching you? Here, it felt like someone was watching from every window. The head doctor, a heavy man with tired eyes named Korsakov, met me without enthusiasm. "The archive is in the basement," he muttered, handing me the keys. "It's dark, damp down there, and fair warning, there are rats." "You scared?" "No," I lied. Well. Working day ends at 6. Don't go down to the basement after 6. And whatever you do, don't go to the left wing. That's the secure unit for violent patients. The doors are locked, but still. I nodded and went downstairs. The basement greeted me with the smell of mold and silence. Thick, heavy silence where every step echoed. The fluorescent lights flickered, making it feel like the air itself was trembling. The archive was a huge room filled with shelves reaching to the ceiling. Folders, bundles, boxes. I found a desk, turned on a lamp, and started working. The first 3 days passed quietly. I sorted documents, made inventories. Sometimes sounds came from above, footsteps of orderlies, shouts of patients, but down here, it was my little sanctuary. I even stopped being afraid of the rats. On the 4th day, I found it. The folder was in the farthest corner, on the bottom shelf, buried under a pile of other cases. The cover wasn't grey like all the others, it was black. Completely black, as if it had been burned. On the spine it read, Medical History Number 0. Patient, unknown. Years, 1952 N.A. 0. Is there even a ward 0 or a case 0? I opened the folder. Inside, there were only 3 pages. Yellowed, brittle paper. The first page, a commitment order. Date, October 13th, 1952. Diagnosis, schizophrenia, paranoid type. Special marks, doesn't speak, doesn't respond to name, doesn't eat. Brought from the village of Glukovka. Then came the doctor's notes. But they were strange. October 14th. Patient shows no reaction to aminazine injections. The needle passes through the skin as if through air. No blood. The orderlies refuse to enter the ward. October 20th. Patient sits in the corner facing the wall. Attempted to turn him, body is cold as stone. Dr. Petrovsky suggested death. But an hour later, the patient turned his head. The eye sockets were empty. Completely empty. But I felt a gaze. November 3rd. At night, the patient rose. Walked through the locked door. Found in the basement. Drawing on the wall with charcoal. What he drew had to be painted over. Orderly Stepanenko quit the next day. He says the drawing was moving. The last entry was the shortest and the scariest. November 15th. Ward number 0 is to be sealed. The patient cannot be treated, as he cannot be identified as alive or dead. Staff are forbidden from going to the basement after sunset. Case closed. I read the last line 3 times. Staff are forbidden from going to the basement after sunset. I looked at my watch. It was 5 in the evening. I was sitting alone in the basement with a folder that apparently no one was supposed to find. Slamming it shut, I decided it was time to call it a day. I stood up, took a step toward the exit, and the lights went out. The fluorescent lamps hissed and died. The desk lamp too. Complete, absolute darkness. The kind of darkness where you can't see your own hand even when you bring it to your face. I froze. My heart was pounding in my throat. Calm down, I whispered out loud. Just a blown fuse. They'll come back on. But they didn't. And then I heard it. A rustle. Quiet, dry rustling, like someone dragging a finger along the wall. It came from that same corner where I'd found the black folder. "There's no one here," I said louder, trying to convince myself. The rustling stopped. Silence. I took a step toward the exit, arms stretched out in front of me. I remembered that the door should be straight ahead, then the corridor, then the stairs up. 15 steps. Just 15 steps. I took the first step. Second. Third. And suddenly my hand touched the wall. But it wasn't concrete. It was soft. Warm. And it was pulsing. I jerked my hand back and screamed. At that same moment, far away at the end of the corridor, a light flickered on. Dim, greenish. It illuminated a figure. A human figure, standing with its back to me. It was a man. Thin, long arms, an old hospital gown. He stood staring at the wall. "Hello," I whispered. "Are you an orderly? Please help me." The figure didn't move. I took a step toward him. And then he started to turn. Slowly. Very slowly. First the shoulder, then the chest, and then I saw his face. He had no face. Where eyes, nose, mouth should be, there was smooth, grey skin. But I felt a gaze. He was looking at me. Looking with all his emptiness. From the wall right behind me came a whisper. Many voices, hoarse. "Leave, while you still can. He's looking for a body. He's always looking for a body." I ran. I ran through the darkness, stumbling, falling, scraping my knees. I didn't feel pain. I felt only one thing. Something was running after me. I heard footsteps. But the footsteps were strange. They were half a second behind, as if whoever was running wasn't in the same time as me. The stairs. I burst onto the stairs. The door up was locked. Locked with a padlock. From the outside. I pounded my fists on the metal. "Open up. Someone. Open up." The footsteps behind me stopped. I turned around. He stood at the bottom of the stairs. In the greenish light. He raised his hand and beckoned me with his finger. A simple, human gesture, but that made it even more horrifying. Like he was calling me home. I screamed so loud I probably tore my vocal cords. And then the lock clicked. The door swung open. Standing in the doorway was Korsakov with a flashlight in his hand. His face was white as chalk. "I told you," he wheezed. "I told you not to go down there after 6. What were you doing?" He grabbed my arm and pulled me up. I collapsed on the floor of the first-floor corridor. It was bright. The lights were on. It smelled of bleach. There's a man down there." I stammered. "He has no face. He's in the basement." Korsakov was silent for a moment. Then he pulled out a pack of cigarettes and lit one right there indoors. "You found the black folder, didn't you?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "So you saw him. Patient 0. They brought him to us in 52 from the village of Glukovka. You know what happened in that village?" I shook my head. "There was an epidemic. People went mad, died, and then they rose. Everyone who died rose and walked into the forest. Disappeared. But he stayed. They caught him and brought him here. But he wasn't human. He was emptiness. Emptiness that takes shape. Or takes bodies. Why didn't you destroy him?" I whispered. "With what? Fire? Water? A cross?" He walked through walls. "We just sealed his ward. Concrete over the entrance. Thought he'd stay there. He didn't stay," I breathed. "I know. Now he's in the basement. Waiting. And today he almost got you." Korsakov took me to his office, gave me valerian drops. I sat there until morning, shaking and jumping at every sound. In the morning, I left. Wrote my resignation, picked up my documents. I never went back to that hospital. A month later, I read in the news, Regional Psychiatric Hospital closed. Patients transferred. Building scheduled for demolition. I breathed a sigh of relief. Free. Yesterday I was on the subway. Late evening. The car was almost empty. Across from me sat a man in old, dirty clothes. He sat sideways, staring at the floor. The train jolted, and he turned his head. He had no face. Smooth grey skin. He stood up. Walked over to me. Leaned close to my ear. And the emptiness whispered, "I found you. You see me. Now you're mine. I'll enter you tonight. Don't close your eyes." I jumped out of the car at the next station. Ran through the passageway, not looking where I was going. At home, I locked all the locks, turned on every light. Sat in the corner and stared at the door. I haven't slept in 3 days. Because every time I close my eyes, I feel him near. He's waiting. He's patient. He waited 60 years in that basement. He can wait a little longer. But the scariest thing, I realized it only this morning. When I looked in the mirror. My eyes. They've become a little lighter. Almost transparent. And deep in the pupil, something is moving. He's already starting to enter. I don't know how much time I have left. Maybe a day. Maybe an hour. If you're reading this, don't look for old hospitals. Don't open black folders. And never, do you hear me, never go down to the basement after sunset. Because down there, in the darkness, someone is waiting. And he has no face. But he will have one soon. Soon it will be my face.